There is a lot going on in the world right now, and it is hard to block out that fear. One thing I do to feel calmer is to be in my garden and grow a lot of my food. We are now just exiting the sort of fast growing season of spring and summer, and now we're in the autumn harvest at the moment, harvesting our bounties and preserving them. And we're also planting our autumn seeds in preparation for the winter and early spring crops. Winter can be a slower growing season, and there are fewer vegetables that you can grow through winter. However, it can be quite a fruitful season. I see winter as a great opportunity for those who are new to growing food to join in, because there can be fewer pests and there's more rain, so you don't have to deal with the issues of drought, and having less issues in your garden will help you feel positive about starting. I already have a lot of videos on how to grow food and what to sow and plant when. So if you head over to my playlists, there are already a lot of videos there to help you. Now is definitely the time to start a garden. If you started one during COVID and you've sort of lost your mojo, I invite you to try and find it again. With the rising costs of food already happening, and now with the prospects of them going up even more, growing something will really help your food bill. April is a great month to start getting your winter vegetables planted out. And if you haven't already sown your seeds to raise your own seedlings, then I recommend going to your local nursery and getting some seedlings there. I recommend sticking with your brassicas, so your broccolis, your cabbages, and your cauliflowers, and kale as well, and your leafy greens, so your lettuces and your spinach, and your Asian greens as well. Planting your own herb garden is a really great way to grow your own food as well, and peas and broad beans are fantastic for planting now. When you are just starting out, I recommend just starting with a few things at a time. So I'd recommend lettuces and herbs as a great starter for your vegetable garden. We all know how much herbs cost. They do cost quite a lot. So growing your own herbs is really going to cut that grocery bill down. And with lettuce, as soon as lettuce is picked, it starts to lose its nutrition. So basically, by the time we get it from the supermarket or from the farmer's market, the nutrients is decreasing. So to grow your own lettuce, you are going to be able to go out into your garden, pick the lettuce, put it on the table and eat it, and you will be getting as much nutrients out of those leafy greens as you can. You'll want to succession sow your vegetables so that you're not harvesting everything all at once. So I recommend figuring out how much lettuce you'll eat in a couple of weeks and planting as many as you think you'll go through, and then planting the same amount in another couple of weeks. So planting every 2 weeks to get a succession of lettuces. I also recommend to focus on what you will eat. So don't plant things that you don't generally put in your meals. Focus on things that you already cook with, and then you won't have the bother of trying to figure out what to do with that vegetable. This is also a good thing to do at these sorts of times to reduce the stress that you have. If you just have the vegetables that you're used to cooking with to chuck into your meals, then your stress is going to be alleviated a lot more. Of course, growing something that you don't already eat is a great way to learn how to cook something new. But as I mentioned, it's probably best to steer clear in times of stress. Soil is key to healthy plants. So you don't want to be just buying in some soil or using potting mix if you are growing your food in pots. You want to be mixing your soil with compost, manure, blood and bone or dynamic lifter. And you want your soil to look like this when you squeeze it. You want it to stay together when you've squeezed it, that means that you've got the right amount of organic matter there to hold all that moisture in. So if you squeeze your soil and it stays together, then it's going to support whatever you plant into the ground there. You'll also want to feed your plants while your soil is being developed. Feeding your plants with seaweed and fish emulsion every fortnight is going to help those plants get the nutrients that they need while your soil is still building. Once you have got your garden established, you can continue to feed them with these fertilizers. They're only going to help your plants grow faster and stronger. Mulch is also important. Now that it's autumn, and if you have leaves dropping close by, you could rake up those leaves and use them as a mulch. This will be a free mulch for you to use. However, sugarcane mulch or pea straw are great to put on top of the soil and around your plants to keep that moisture in. Now, through autumn and winter, you don't need to have as thick a layer, so you can save some money here by just adding a thin layer over the top of the soil just to keep that moisture in. But come summertime, you will need to add a thicker layer in to keep that moisture from leaving your soil. It is so important to keep watering your garden regularly. So in summertime, I tend to water my garden every second day, but I do a really deep water, and this really helps, particularly in drought season. And that's why my tomatoes are still going really well. We have had a very, very hot summer, and a lot of gardens around me have dried up. But with regular waterings of a deep watering and also keeping that mulch on top on the soil, this has really helped see my garden through the hot summer. If you drive past farms and places where our food is being sent to the supermarket, you will notice that they water at least once a day, if not multiple times a day. Now, this is generally because they aren't mulching on top of their soil. The soil is bare, and the soil is also pretty depleted of nutrients as well. So they will spray the nutrients on, and they will also use all sorts of fertilizers depending on how they grow their vegetables. In winter, it can feel like you don't need to water your garden, but I highly recommend that you keep up with watering regularly. Of course, if it's rained, then you don't need to water. Just find a routine that suits you and your garden and see how you go. You might aim to water your garden twice a week during winter, depending on, of course, the rainfall, or you might decide to water every second day. Just see how it goes. Make sure that you check your soil and see how wet it is in the ground. If it is quite moist, if it's getting quite soggy, then you don't want to water. So just keeping an eye on these things is key. Thank you, friends, for being here. I hope this helps you in the beginning of your food growing journey. I wish you all the success. And of course, if you ever need some help, I've got my email down below in the description, and you can always shoot me a comment. Enjoy getting your hands in the soil, my friends. See you next time.